Okay, so I'll call this meeting to order, and we're going to add one item under new business, and that is discussion of the fall Dummerston Views article. So moving ahead, we have the minutes from July 15th and July 17th. And let's see, the July 17th was the hearing on a dog. So let's do July 15th first.
I would move, I'll move that we approve minutes from the select board meeting on July 15th.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Then we have the minutes from public hearing on a dog complaint from July 17th.
I'll move that we approve the minutes from the hearing about the dog complaint on July 17th.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Then moving on, we have bills for payment. We have warrants 3 and then the payroll 3P.
I'll move that we approve bills for payment warrants 3 and 3P.
I'll second that. That's Geraldine.
Okay, any discussion? Warrant 3 is for $10,275. And among the items that's covering are fuel, payroll transfers, highway department supplies and repairs, and the sheriff's monthly bill. So any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, good. Recognition of visitors and public comments. Paul, do you have anything you'd like to address right at the moment? It's not on the agenda.
Oh,
Yeah, I was just wondering, I'm primarily interested in your discussion on the reappraisal, and I didn't know if you were willing to move that up on the agenda, and then I could leave rather than stay on for everything else.
What would members like to do?
Well, I'd like to do our road foreman's report and the things for Lee before we discuss that, since his day starts pretty early.
Yeah, everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, well then we'll move on to the road foreman's report. And I think Lee Chamberlain is around.
Yes.
Okay.
So, did somebody stop by the office and pick up the bids for the brush hog or not?
I did.
Okay. Did you want to read those first, or do you want to talk about everything else first?
Up to you, up to how the board wants to. Would you like me open? I've got 2 bids here sealed.
I'd like to hear the stuff first and then we'll go to the bids.
Okay. So, the email I sent to you on the work that we've done is the some culvert work, some under drain work. We also have done some cleaning up some trees that fallen down along East-West Road. We're still making next year's sand or the following year's sand and stockpiling it down at the pit. Doing some spot grading where needed. We ended up having to do our hearing tests for the MSHA, the requirement for that, so we got that taken care of. Been doing some other maintenance. You can see that the sliding door in the office, they worked on that, and they got that completed. Other than that, Bazin Brothers did crush our gravel for this year. They just finished last Friday, so that's complete. There should be a bill coming fairly soon for that. And then the rest of it is pretty much about the mowing.
Okay. Any questions for Lee on,
Is the mower fixed yet, Lee?
Yes, we did get it going, I guess a couple, 3 days ago.
Okay,
Yeah, and we've been mowing pretty much
okay.
ever since.
I don't think we got the email that you're referring to, Lee, unless I missed it somewhere. Did anybody get an email, catch-up email?
no?
No, so we didn't get an email, Lee.
Okay, yeah, okay, all right, yeah, I did send out one, what we did every day for work, and, discussed about the brush hog in there, saying that we went out to bid to Pinnacle View, Town Line, Salem Farmer Supply, United Ag and Turf. Those are the people that we sent the bids out to. And then the other thing what was on there was the mower that I'm recommending, that we actually sent that out to bid today, the flail mower. And that's a Ferry model 1800. Anyways, it's a almost the same thing as what we have, except it's heavier, more heavy duty. And I have a approximate cost, but that's just approximate until we go out to bid.
What is the approximate cost?
Around 16,000.
Okay,
They said a little less, but it never ends up that way.
okay. All right. So there's a question that's been asked. You know, we had on the town meeting warning an article for a very specific flail mower, and you know the reasons were given for going with that particular model, and so this bush hog, a different flail mower. There's a question of, okay, is this a little too far off the intent of that article, or is it close enough, or so there's that question. I don't know if members have thought about that, or what or what. I'm throwing that idea out there.
Yeah. After talking with Terry and Lori, yes, that is my opinion that the Ferry flail mower, I think, would be fine. It's just a matter of, I don't think we should take the brush hog out of the capital plan, the way it's worded. So if the Prospect Hill Board wants to pay for half of the brush hog, either that has to be increased, or they pay for half and the other half comes out of the highway fund. And I don't know if I'm willing to do that this year until we see how the winter does go. So I wouldn't mind putting that off until spring and revisiting it.
Okay, so you're saying you're opening bids on a bush hog that you might not want until next spring. Am I following this correctly?
Right, because of the email back from the lawyer.
Okay. Okay, so we'd assume that the bids that we're going to open, they're probably only good for 30 days or whatever, but they're not going to be. They might give you a ballpark on.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead, Paul.
A question about that, is that, because that wasn't brought up at town meeting at all, like you said, Zeke. And I'm wondering, is that an item that you're planning on putting on? Because people were under the impression you were buying one thing and now it seems like you want to buy two things. Is that going to be an item for discussion at town meeting next year?
Good question.
I think that's why Lee is saying he would wait. Is that true, Lee?
Yes, either wait and take it out of the regular budget, the 2,000, well, whatever, I'm not sure what the prices are going to be for sure, but the $2,000 or if the budget, or bring it up at town meeting, yes.
We checked in, Paul, we checked in with VLCT about this, and because the article was so specific, they said no, it was mower, no S's. So we can buy the flail mower through the capital plan right now. That's it.
Yeah, but I mean, it would seem to have to be a line item if you're not taking it out of the capital plan, seeing as the budget had already been approved, given the line items that you already have designated.
Right, so
I
Paul,
don't think you can move line items around willy-nilly.
right, this is Maria. I agree with you, Paul. By wanting to wait till spring, you're still within this budget that we're in now. So what Paul's saying is it needs to be either an article, a separate article through the capital plan for next year, for a year from now, or I don't think that or put it in as a line item when we do our budget this fall. I don't think it can be done next spring. I don't think a purchase can be made.
Right.
Because it's not a line item in the highway fund right now.
Right.
Is that what you're saying, Paul?
Yes, that's correct,
Yes.
Maria, thank you.
Exactly, right. Yeah.
The only way I see it being able to be done in this fiscal year is to say, have a special town meeting to do it.
Yeah, and that doesn't make any, to me, that doesn't make any sense.
Mhm. Right, but
Because
that's
we've
what I think.
We've already.
Yeah.
I mean, the flail mower's been approved at the town meeting in March. So the two bids that we got are not for a flail mower.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Although, yeah, no, these are for the other one.
They're for the
Bush
bush hog.
Bush hog, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so, yeah.
Well,
I'm
do you
not sure
want me
if
to just, what? Go ahead, Maria.
I mean, can we even open these bids, or, I mean, we're not gonna be able to act on them. And by the time we should act on them next year, a year from now. They'll be, the numbers will be completely, I mean, we'll have to put it back out to bid whether we put it in as an article for the capital plan or a line item in the budget. I don't think this is anything that we can act on now, either way, whether it's, I don't see it.
Right.
Right.
Agree?
If there are unexpected costs that come up, breakdowns or repairs that need to be done on something. But we generally budget for, repairs and maintenance. And so this is just kind of out of the blue.
Exactly.
Sort of, the intent might be to sort of go along with that article that we passed, but because the wording was so specific, I don't see that it's just not close enough.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I just got to call the companies that put in bids to thank them and either give them we opened them, or B, we didn't open them because we can't act on them.
You can blame it on the select board if you want, you know.
Oh, no. Well,
Be sympathetic.
the letter from the lawyer came back after the bids were out. So, yeah, now we know.
Okay.
Okay, we don't need to open the bids.
I'll just hand it back to Lori to put in the file, or however you want it, whatever she wants to do. Or do you want me to just chuck them?
Let's see. I wonder if the Prospect Hill trustees would still be interested in a bush hog. But
Well, take them back to the town office, Lee, and you can let them know they're there.
Right. I guess that's the other thing is right now, all the Prospect Hill trustees, not including the select board, because I'm not sure of their opinion, but they were willing to take out or half of the money if they said they would take out all of it. Is that something? I don't even I don't need to pursue this anymore, or I can, I guess.
guess you could make the pitch to the trustees. That'd be fine to do.
Okay.
That's in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. I'll do some checking.
Okay.
And so you'll have the flail mower bids for the next meeting, Lee?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Good. Okay. Anything else on this? Or anything else for Lee? Okay. Lee, you have anything else?
No. And thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Lee.
Okay. Let's see. Is there anything under correspondence for information that you'd like to discuss? Oh, wait, we're going to go, yeah, we're going, Paul, if we can just finish this correspondence for information, then we'll go to the reappraisal.
Thank you.
Okay. I was just on a roll. Anything under correspondence for information?
I have a question
Okay.
on the grant for,
Keep us from getting to you sooner. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The land records grant, could somebody explain that?
Actually, I can give you a little brief hit on this. One of the problems when COVID happened was that a lot of the digitalization hadn't happened in the town offices. So therefore, there was stuff stuck that they needed to go in but couldn't go in. And they would have found it would have been better to have more of these records digitalized. So when this money came up from the feds, the legislature and the governor passed so much money set aside to go to the town clerks. And it's opening up, I think, very soon for like Lori to put in and say, we'd like this much money, like to apply for the grant for it. Does that kind of give you a...
Is this to digitize the land records, or is
Right.
this to just preserve them? I know there's something in that she does to send them off so that they don't deteriorate, they're preserved.
I think if I'm reading this right, and don't hold me to it, I think it's for digitizing it so that they can be accessed through a computer. So therefore, a lot of this stuff could have gone on with like the change of, people still buying, but couldn't get into town offices.
That'd be great.
And yeah, but they saved out so much of the federal money coming up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So let's jump ahead to the reappraisal update. And anyone want to take the lead on that?
Well, there was an email that talked about the limitations to the appraisers and entering people's houses, right?
Yeah,
And that they're not going to be entering anybody's house at all for this appraisal, as that was my reading of the.
that was my reading also.
That's exactly.
So they've already been in some houses, as I understand it. I was talking to some folks over the weekend, and the appraisers had been in their house. So my concern was if they've been in some, and they said, this person said that they'd been in some houses on Camp Arden Road. So my concern is if they've been in some houses and not in others, that serves to muddy the waters in terms of that, with their valuations.
Right. So we can't undo those houses, but maybe we can ask the listeners to convey that this is my opinion, that they just send someone else from the appraisal company to appraise those houses from the outside as they would the rest of the houses in town, and disregard those earlier appraisals.
So-
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Joe.
so for my benefit, let's back up a little bit. So is there a consideration on the table to halt this appraisal because of COVID?
Apparently not.
Okay, so it's a decision to go ahead with the appraisal, and there's we would like to make a request that it be the same for all visits, that no houses are entered.
They're saying they're not going to enter any houses. So we can request that the ones that they did do, they redo from the outside.
A different person.
But they do it from the outside anyway. I mean,
Yes.
they do that also. My understanding from the presentation that was given, there was reference to coming back in the spring.
That's not happening. If you
That's,
saw that email,
Okay,
they are not going to do that.
okay.
They are not going to enter houses. The days of appraisal companies or listers going into people's houses may be a thing of the past.
I see.
the problem with this contract we've got, there's no pandemic out on this, Paul. I mean, who would have thought we would have been in a pandemic when we signed the contract to have them reappraised? So there's no pandemic clause in there to say, okay, we can stop it because we're in the middle of a pandemic.
There's no force majeure clause in the contract?
Now, did you get the reappraisal agreement that went around a while ago? David?
Did I read it?
Yeah,
Did you say? No.
okay.
The contract, the contract with the appraisers?
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think we would want to stop it, but I don't want to bring that up as an issue. You know, I'm not interested in stopping it.
Right.
Well, can I ask you a question though on that matter? Do we have even the right, forgetting about the contract, was this mandated by the state? The reappraisal? No. So did we decide to do it? So it's within our authority to just, if we want, forgetting about the contract, if it would be within our authority to stop it if we wished.
If we wished, but we have signed a contract
Yeah.
for a certain amount of money.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
And if the contract doesn't allow us, as I read it, to just decide not to do this. So we would probably,
Well, I mean, I think, so I'll ask that question again. Is somebody saying that there is no force majeure clause in the contract, which there typically is in these contracts?
I didn't see that. So it would probably be good for all of us to look through that again with that in mind.
So the other thing that I heard at the last meeting was that there was the intention that if someone is home, they have a conversation with the owner and ask certain questions about internal changes since the last appraisal.
Right.
So I guess I don't, you know, to have them redo something because they went into somebody's house and they're not going to go into other people's houses seems unnecessary to me. But so not going into the house and talking to the owner are the way they're going to continue.
Yep. That's
is my understanding.
right. But everybody should be on a level playing field. I mean,
Right, but sometimes the owner isn't home, so they don't have anybody to talk to. They just can look from the outside. So
No,
that's
they
a
go
little,
back. They would leave a
Go back.
car in
Yeah,
Geraldine.
yeah.
and
they would-
expect someone to call them.
Right, to set up a time. But I think what we're getting at with the level playing field is they'd have a different, they've got more than one of them working in town. So we'd send somebody else that hadn't been inside the house to start it as from scratch. So at least we could have a level playing field that way.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I didn't realize that's why we were having that whole presentation and
No, we were having a presentation just to get a sense of what was, to inform us of what was going on.
Like the methodology they used, for
Yes,
example.
Yes, and for them to explain, make the case for continuing with the appraisal. We had reservations.
I
No.
still do. I still do have reservations, frankly.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
I really do too.
and so what are we, so are we clear about what those reservations are? And are we clear what that means relative to what would make us feel okay with this going forward?
I think what the, I don't remember his last name, the fellow from the appraisal company tried to do at that meeting last time was to reassure us that he could do an adequate reappraisal from without going into the houses.
Right.
I wasn't reassured.
Yeah,
Frankly, I was not reassured.
Me either.
I was.
I mean, the fact that he said multiple times, "That's just the way it is," or that's just it. That's just how it was. That did not make me feel comfortable at all.
Well, the reason I was convinced was because I felt that he was making the case that the appraisal is based on certain criteria that are established by the state that are about basic things of a house and its property. it doesn't change the appraisal that much that someone would renovate a bathroom or fix up the basement or change the counters in the kitchen. You know, that shouldn't change an appraisal to the degree that it's gonna make that big of a difference.
Well, see, that's where I disagree with you, Geraldine. It will change, make a big difference. And when you're dealing with people that the appraisals are off, say 20 or 30,000, it's their tax dollars because the other one, the next door neighbor has more but didn't quite say it all, then it's unequal. And so I do find that maybe somebody that did 2 bathrooms and finished the basement but didn't really quite tell them all that would be a problem. I want it equal because I think there's been times where it's not been equal, and I think to do the best for the Dummerston, it would to be fair and equitable through all of it.
Yeah, and I think that by visiting the houses, doing their tour, and you know, if they can talk to the owner, all the better. There are always going to be a handful of people who lie, who don't tell the truth, who keep information from whoever asks for it. There are always going to be that handful of people.
It's exactly, not even that they're lying. It could be just something that they don't quite get the ramifications of this, that the $800 light fixture versus the $50 light fixture makes, you know what I mean, in the house.
It's not going to make a difference, Terry. That little thing, I mean, it's like going to the doctor. They're looking to see if your leg is broken, if you can't hear, you can't see. They're not looking for the subtleties of how do you digest your food and how, you know, it's like, that's not what the reappraisal, that's not, the comparison is not based on those nuances. Those are nuances.
Well, I'll give you another concern that I have, actually. And on this matter, I actually agree with Terry. But one of the major principles of the model was to equate value with the exterior and the size of the house, which seems to me to be just a faulty approach to the issue. I just cannot be convinced that that's equitable.
Well, and I think that you're right in saying that, because things have changed over time, over the decades, and I don't think that the appraisers or the state have really caught up to. I mean, I live in one of those small houses that, you know, is super insulated and has a much higher value than typically a house of this square footage. So I'm the perfect example of just what you talked about.
And see, I take it a step further. I completely agree with David, but if you can do that with the outside of the building, then you can definitely have a difference on the inside of the building. It goes hand in hand when you're doing a true reappraisal.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both Terry and David. I mean, what's going to be the problem is that if somebody is living in a 100-year-old home or a 200-year-old home and has not renovated it, the state, if they go just by state formulas, they're just, you know, it's the inside. They might live in a big house, but the inside may be completely unfinished, or have finishes that existed, you know, 50 years ago or 30 years ago, and they're going to get appraised as though they are at today's value. Yeah. And that's not going to be equitable. That you just can't. It's not that cookie cutter.
Right.
Not every home is brand new.
Right.
Um,
I'm not going to paint the outside of my house this summer. So.
Too late. I started mine already.
It's not going to be fair. I think what's going to happen is people are actually going to be overappraised compared to what they actually physically have in their home. I don't think it's so much, Geraldine, the people that aren't going to say, oh, well, I renovated my kitchen or I renovated my bathroom. It's going to be the ones that didn't do those renovations. Because the state formula is going to take into account that people have upgraded to some type of a standard. But what about the ones that don't live up to that standard?
Don't they tell the appraiser that? And
Well,
doesn't
what if
that-
they're not home? And,
Well-
and what if they, well,
But
I mean-
I thought we said that they were going to get in touch with people.
Yes, but there's no,
You're gonna try.
I mean,
Yeah.
right.
there's
if
no-
you're worried about it, then you get in touch with them. I mean, you know, it takes a certain responsibility for the residents as well. It takes a certain education from the town to tell people why this reappraisal is important, why we're doing this. I mean,
Well, yes, it does take some, but not everybody that owns a house understands what a reappraiser does and what they're looking for. So, I mean, that's not their job in itself. So they do the best they can. And that's all they can do, but that may not be the best. Okay, it may not give them an equalized formula.
then what would?
Going into a home and actually seeing it for themselves. That would be the most equitable. And if we have a 5 to 6, I think the last time was less than a 5%, nobody going, that they wouldn't allow them in the home. That's about as equitable as you can get when you can actually virtually go in there and see it. You know, I mean, it's just like a BCA one that we all toured. I mean,
Do we
Right.
know what percentage of the houses were seen on the inside in the last appraisal?
the understanding I have out of all the town, my understanding, it may be quite off, but there was only 2 people that did not let them into their homes last time. And see, my problem with this is it's going to take 10 to 12 years. We got to get the money together to do another reappraisal. So what may not be equitable now, we're going to have to live with for 10 to 12 years until we get the money again.
But then it sounds to me again like we're talking about stopping the appraisal. And I asked that question in the beginning of this discussion, and you said, no, that's not the question we're trying to answer.
Well, I think it
I'm
is.
confused.
I disagree. I think that is a question that should be on the table. Are we trying to stop the appraisal under the circumstances? Do we want an appraisal along the lines that they have proposed, and what are our options in terms of the contract, getting out of the contract?
Okay, then we're talking about stopping it.
why
That's
do
what I
we-
was trying to clarify in the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe we should send a copy of the contract to the town attorney to see, for his review, and see what our options are, what we might expect if we were to say we're stopping this.
Yep.
Paul, you have a response?
Well, a comment. I basically believe it's a flawed process, and my comments at the last meeting indicated that. What the goal is not necessary. Equity is one of the goals, but the other goal is to assess property at its fair market value. And essentially what they do is he mentioned that they use Marshall Swift as, their manuals are Marshall Swift. I believe he mentioned that. And that's a construction manual.
Yeah.
And what they do is that they measure the square footage of the house and they multiply it by a dollar amount to come up with value. Now, that doesn't necessarily correlate to what a house will sell for. And some houses have been selling for more than assessed value in this town, and some houses have been selling for less. And over the last several years, until COVID came along, values were from my experience, the values on the lower price houses were undervalued. In other words, and values on upper end houses were overvalued. Now, I don't know, things have happened with COVID where there have been a few crazy sales in town, as I'm aware of, but I don't know how it would transmit throughout the whole spectrum. But my point is, they have to come up, in order to be fair, they have to come up with fair market value. And they can't do that without taking into consideration, they have to adjust the construction cost of the house by what they see in it in terms of physical and functional depreciation. That is, wear and tear is physical. Functional is in terms of something you probably wouldn't put the same bathroom in today that you put in 1970. Or, if it's tucked inside a closet, that would be functional obsolescence in terms of utility value. And all of those things come into play in terms of valuation, in terms of what a buyer will pay. Fair market value is determined by what a buyer will pay and a seller will sell in a non-encumbered transaction. So it seems to me that when all they're doing is looking at square footage in their construction manuals, that right away, the process is flawed. So, that's whatever my 2 cents is worth.
The process is flawed because of COVID.
No, the process is flawed, not because of COVID, but because of the process that you can't value a property from the outside. I mean, you can take a wild guess. We used to call it windshield appraisals when I was in the real estate business, and it's a drive-by kind of thing, but they're taking it one step further by measuring the house. But those measurements have already been taken in most cases because the town already has those records. So why do you need those folks for? You could just you could just have the listers update the values of those houses based upon existing square footage that they already have in their files.
Yeah. I think that Zeke's suggestion that we send the contract to the town attorney to have he or she review it to ascertain what our options are. I think that should be our next step.
Okay, but I see some heads nodding. How about we have a motion to?
I'd like to make a motion that we send a reappraisal contract to the town lawyer to have it assessed as to to determine what our options are going forward.
Second that.
Okay, any discussion?
So I'd be interested in more engagement with the listers before we make any kind of a decision, regardless of what the lawyer comes back with. I don't want to make a decision without more input or at least engagement with the listers.
But we would go ahead to have this. I'm not sure I agree with that, but we would still go ahead and
no, I mean the ultimate decision. I don't mean the decision to send it to the lawyer. I'm fine sending it to the lawyer, and I'll vote in favor of this motion. But yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, there's a motion to send the contract to our town attorney for review and advice. And Maria probably has David's exact words, but all those,
Close.
okay, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
And so in the meantime, the appraisal is going on, right? It's happening day after day. It hasn't been paused.
Yes.
No, it's still going.
Yeah.
Because we've still been paying them all this time since
Right.
it started. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So who's got copy, who can email the town attorney a copy of the contract?
I can get it from Lori
Great.
and forward it on to him.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, so we'll do that and wait to hear back, and then we'll decide, we'll have more information to continue this discussion.
Right.
Good. All right, any more on this? Then let's go back to our regularly scheduled program, and under correspondence for discussion and/or action, we have a letter of interest to serve on the Energy Committee, Doug Morton. Thank you, Paul. I've invited him to, a 5 or 10 minute session before our August, is it 12th meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Before the August 12th meeting?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's also the Prospect Hill meeting.
Yeah. Which
Okay.
may or may not take place,
Right.
given, yeah.
Oh,
And
right.
if,
Okay.
if, we run, 5 or 10 minutes late, well, that, I'm thinking that won't be the end of the world.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not. So let's do that. If everyone's okay with that, we'll.
Yep.
Keep that.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, then under new business, let's see, Seven's request regarding being put on the town meeting warning. They made that request and we said we'd deal with it.
Oh, yeah.
And so what are members' thoughts on that?
Well, I-
go
I-
ahead.
I think that it should be something that we discuss during budget sessions. Because it has to do with the budget.
I'm curious what we have done in the past, like, so there are certain things that just get on as an article, like Green Mountain Camp, or no, that's for no property taxes. What are other things that get funded just as articles?
The fire department. Every 5 years, we have to renew something regarding the fire department. And so that's
That would be for their exemption from property tax.
yes, okay,
Yeah.
right. So,
Just like that's the same as Green Mountain Camp or the Grange.
Right. But what other things do we fund? As an article?
we don't. We have social services. So, the drop-in center, we don't make them petition. Originally they might have had to, but we have a committee that reviews and makes recommendations, and sometimes they drop an organization or sometimes add one, I think. But so this is a little bit, I can't think of anything that's exactly like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Just curious.
So,
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to have this discussion during the budget process, actually, because it is a change in the way we do it, and we'll be able to deal with it better within the context of that budget discussion.
And that allows them the timing they would need to do a petition?
Yeah, because they only need 45 days before the town meeting.
Yes, but they have to have the petitions in. Maria, do you remember?
Yeah, I want to say it's by the end, there's a end of January.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's
and we
yeah,
start budget season in October or whenever, November.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
although with everything going, I think we should start budget season earlier than that.
What are you doing later tonight?
Sure,
Um,
we got the end of the year stuff.
So, so we could get back to them and let them know that we're going to, yeah,
Discuss it in October.
yeah,
Oh, I'll take care of that.
yeah,
Okay.
whenever we get going on our budget.
Yeah.
And that, they would, we won't, we'll try to do it in a timely way so we don't run the clock down on them.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
all right. So we have, moving on, we have a special, we have to have a special meeting to set the municipal property tax rate and also consider if we want to reduce or abate any penalty for delinquent payments. And so usually those, well, we're usually just setting the tax rate, and that usually takes about 10 minutes if we want to talk about the weather and other things first. Whether we want to reduce or eliminate penalties, I imagine will be a longer discussion. I think Terry and Maria, you can correct me. I think Charlotte and Lori would like us to do this sometime on Monday, August 3rd. Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a time that they thought they'd be ready and available, or, and then is there a time that works for us?
Yeah, Lori mentioned to me early afternoon because they've already sent out notices or emails, whatever it was, that the tax bills will be going out, I think, on the 4th, and we actually changed the due date to September 3rd. So it almost has to be on Monday. Otherwise, we're going to have to again change the due date if they go out later.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Lori was thinking Monday, August 3rd, early afternoon.
Like 1 o'clock? Yeah,
12:30?
12:30?
I can do 12:30.
Yeah, 12:30 is fine for me.
Got it.
Okay.
Maria?
And then-
how's yours?
Yeah, that'll be fine. And Geraldine, will you set that up as a Zoom meeting?
I can. Lori's asking us to do this, though. I mean, is she setting up Zoom meetings?
No. No,
Who-
this is all, this is just another select board meeting.
Okay. Using my, I mean, I can do it. I typically don't use my work accounts during the day, that it's for after hours. So who sets up the town account, the Zoom account? Roger?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it was
Okay.
Roger.
Well, I have to talk with Lori anyway about the meeting on August 12th. So I'll just ask her, but yes, I'll take care of setting up a Zoom meeting and sending everybody a link.
Okay, all right.
Great. Thank you. 12:30 on Monday. And if you'd like to eat at this meeting, I think we can make allowance for food and beverage.
And are we saying 12:30 to 1 is good enough?
I
Yeah.
sincerely hope so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this is a what do they call it? Bring your own BYOB or something like that.
To be BYOF, bring your own food.
All right,
UIOL, bring your own
All right.
lunch.
all right, great. Brown bagging. All right, great. Let's see. What about the fall views?
Yeah, so I added that to the agenda. Thank you, Zeke. So the fall views is due September 15th. It will be mailed on October 27th, so the end of October. And when I talked to Lee last week, I asked him about the gravel pit and how things were going with Putney and you know, because it was such a big deal to buy the gravel pit, and I haven't really heard a peep about it. So it seemed to me that it, you know, it would be appropriate for the select board to say something about the gravel pit and how things are going to town residents. You know, town residents have paid for this, and it's, you know, it's a big deal, and we haven't heard anything about it. So, the end of October, you know, we're going to be starting winter, and I don't know, you know, COVID's still happening. It just, I wanted to, you know, it seemed to me it would be appropriate to write an article that focused on our roads, the maintenance of the road, the gravel pit. And I'd be willing to write such an article, and I would interview Lee and get some quotes from him and just help people understand what we're looking at in terms of the winter. So I wanted to get people's input on that.
I started to pay attention when I heard that you were willing to write this. So I'm all in favor.
But it's the content I wanted to make sure people were comfortable with.
It's a great idea.
I
It
think
is
it's
a great idea.
agreed. It's good.
Okay, good. So I'd be willing to do that, and I would, if it seems like there's anything that's controversial, I would certainly run it by the select board, but, you know, if not, I'd probably just pass it to Zeke and make sure that, you know, he felt okay with it. Terry, you've been our liaison with Lee, and so, you know, if you wanted to read it, I could certainly pass it to you as well, you know, whatever makes sense.
Sure. Great.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. Well, that was good news. What a good way to end the meeting. Is there any other new business?
Yeah.
Okay. Just sometimes I get, you know, my hearing aids feedback or, all right, well, see you on Monday, August 3rd, 12:30. Same.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay. And I'll be in touch with Zoom links about the Monday meeting and the August 12th meeting.
Sounds wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.